Hi, Professor.
What's up?
Hi,
Hi, guys. One.
how are you, Professor?
Eh. I've been better, but I'm here today. How are you guys? One.
Good, thank you.
Good. Hey, Letty.
Okay,
Hey, Letty.
maybe I'm getting sick. I wish not.
I hope not too. It's that time. I'm telling you, it's that time.
Yes, the two for 2 following years I got pneumonia, but not this year.
2 years
Not this-
ago.
Yes, 2 years ago
Wow.
I had pneumonia.
Scary. Were you okay? Did you have to go to the hospital?
I did, and the doctor didn't tell me no later than 2 weeks later. She said, go to the hospital and grab your medication because you have pneumonia. And say 2 weeks later, she told me, say no, well, but I did well.
That's good. I'm sorry. I know. Yeah, the hospital is never fun. The hospital is never fun.
No, unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
Agree.
It's good to get help when we need it, of course, but yeah, it's never my favorite place to be. We got more people coming in.
Professor, while the people are still coming, what's about the assignment for the midterm?
Yeah, I'm going to talk all about it today. I'm sure the only thing on people's mind right now is grades for the essay and the midterm, so that's what we're going to start with.
Yeah, it's good. I just check it and I see that's something's different. I didn't read it before.
Yeah, the short answer is there's still a time thing, but I'm going to give you guys a lot more time. Yeah, I'll talk more when everyone's here, but I don't know how you guys are feeling, but at this point in the semester, it's not, I'm not having a fun time right now. So I think we just need to be kind and generous and go a little slower. So I'm going to give you guys a lot more time for the midterm, guys. But I'll talk more about it once everyone's here.
Okay, thank you.
I hope, again, I keep thinking a lot about how to make this work enjoyable instead of just like we're like checking a box on something, and that it's very hard because Canvas is just all about checking boxes. So it's very challenging, but I'll show you the midterm. Like I said, my hope is that it's something fun for you to do, because I think when this class is going well, it's when we're really just talking about literature, which is kind of the point of the class, and it gets a little less fun when it's like how many days and due dates and words and assignments and all that stuff. So we'll talk much more about it. I hit my low point of the semester last week, so we'll talk all about it.
All right.
Hey, Ahmad.
Hey, how you doing, Professor?
I'm
Hi,
okay.
everybody.
How are you doing, Ahmad?
Kind of a little bit got cold, but yeah, it's good.
Me too. That was last week. So I'll tell everybody what I missed you guys last week, but I was just a mess. So personally, so I had to just throw some stuff up on Canvas. But yeah, I think, like I said, my impression or my feeling is that everyone's kind of it's a real kind of dip in the semester, it feels like.
That's right.
But if you're one of the people, if you're watching this and you're feeling happy and energetic, bless you. That's wonderful. That's great.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to enjoying the reading the book.
Which one, Letty? For which book?
The poem, The
Oh,
River.
The River Speaks?
Yes, it's wonderful.
Oh, good.
I'm finished chapter 5, but it's really hard. It's really hard, chapter 5.
Yeah, chapter 5, chapter 5, we're going to introduce some of those ideas about rhythm and meter, but they are, again, you could study it. You could take a whole class on poetry and still feel like rhythm and meter. It's tricky. And it's especially tricky, of course, for language learners, because native speakers in your first language too, you'll have a sense of the rhythm of your language, right?
Yes.
But it is different, of course.
It's
in-
different. A, E, O, U. It's really different. A,
Yeah.
E.
Professor Jeff,
Yes. Hi, Hiroe.
hi, may I interrupt you guys just
Sure.
quick?
Yeah.
So as soon as I clicked on the launch on the Zoom you sent us, it didn't happen anything. So I needed to go to the browser to start this meeting, just for your information.
Interesting. Did anybody else have a problem joining the meeting?
I think they are not joining, that's why.
Maybe. Well, we've got 7 or 8 people, so some is here. I'll ask people, but thank you, Hiroe, for letting me know.
Okay, okay,
I don't know why it would be different. It's the same link, so
exactly. Strange.
yeah. It's just our computers trying to kill us. That's just my feeling about it.
That's right.
This is the other thing this week. I think like when I started to feel bad and feel sort of sick is I just think too much sitting and too much computer time, and it's hard. So I'm not complaining. I know it's hard for everybody, but believe me, if
I know.
if it's hard for you guys, I completely understand. I completely understand.
But it's hard for you too. You have such a big responsibility.
4 classes, you guys. It's doing 4 classes, and then I saw Hiroe in the lab. It's just I don't. Again, it's not. I don't want to complain. It's my job to be here for you guys, but I don't think that the administration understands how much extra
No.
work all the online
Yeah.
teaching is.
Exactly. In the prep and in afterward, you
It-
need
I-
so
I
much stuff.
I like the prep here. I mean, like, I love reading poems for you guys. The thing that I never like is I love reading your essays. Like I already told Hiroe, I've read through most of the essays, but what I hate doing is giving it a grade. It's so hard for
Yes.
me. And then I try to think, okay, how can I give a grade and then give feedback that justifies or explains my grade? And I think something about just when I was feeling super low energy and didn't feel good this week,
Mm.
I found it almost impossible to like
Mhm.
your
Mhm.
beautiful essays, and then it's my job to be like, oh, this is an A and this is a B. It's very challenging. It's very, very
Hard. And
challenging.
you wish you should have become like a math teacher, right?
Or I don't know what I should have become, Hiroe. I don't know what.
Easy to grade.
Something where I can just talk to you guys about your work, but not feel like I have to give you a grade. And then understandably, you're all like, what's my grade? Because the grade for, it's very important, right? This course is going to transfer to a CSU. So it's I just don't know. I'm still learning how to do this job in this new online world. And some weeks I feel like I'm doing great. And other weeks I feel like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
have no idea what I'm doing.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I'm glad that you are human too.
Well, I don't know. Some teachers, I can imagine other teachers being like, Jeff, never confess that you're having a hard time. But I don't know. You guys, you know me by now. I'm always going to be myself, for better and for worse.
Exactly.
I think it's
Yeah,
what-
no, this is good. I think, with thread, you cannot lead anyone.
Yeah, that's true.
But the understanding and, the sharing your thought, then you can have really your team.
I'm trying. Yeah. Natalia, did I see your hand raised? We'll get started here. We do have a
Okay.
good group already here, but Natalia, did I see your hand raised?
Yeah, hello everyone.
Hi.
I have a question about our narratives
Yes.
because I still don't have anything.
Yeah.
And I feel like frustrated because now we have a midterm and I do not know anything about
Yeah.
I take a good direction in my thinking
Yeah.
in this narrative.
Good. Save this for our check-in, Natalia, because I understand. Like I'll talk about this. I'm ready to talk about this, and not just the grading, but how it affects what comes next. So I completely understand. I'll talk more about it. I have a whole slide for you, Natalia.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Maybe we should just get started. Let me see who's here. I'm gonna pull up our participants. We got 11 people. That's pretty normal. Jay sent me a private message and I want to talk about it with the whole group. Jay, can
What is it?
can I share this with the class, Jay? You can type, you don't have to say out loud. Can I share this? Now I'm just watching the chat. She says, sure. She says, Professor, have you voted already? Yes, I have voted.
Oh, great.
And then and then she said, Trump.
We want to keep out.
And then she said, Trump 2020 JK. JK means just kidding. So yeah, I would be lying if I told you that stress about the election is not
Oh, yeah.
helping me, and I cannot wait for it to be over, because I feel like, again, our country, this place we all live, we are losing our effing minds right now. It's just insanity. Jay,
Yep.
Jay, can I ask, why'd you ask about voting?
Yeah, because like everyone's trying to talk about it online, and like everyone's voting now compared to like last election.
Yes.
It's like 60 million now, and it's still early voting, but like compared to like a few years back, it's like only thousands.
I know. Yeah, it's I just texted all my siblings today, because that was it the last couple of weeks, I think. Lots of time, I think. So I'll sort of get started, and just, this is if you're watching now, this is sort of the beginning of the class. So part of the last few weeks for me has been, in order for my siblings to be able to help take care of my mom a little bit more, it meant it was why I was with my sister, so I could help her take care of her kids and her family, so that she could spend some more time helping my mom. So that was last week. And then I think I just got overwhelmed and stressed out by life and the weather changing, and it's colder, and of course all this election stuff. So last week I just felt sick. Like I didn't feel like I'd slept a lot, and had to just kind of like try to get through day to day. And I feel like part of that is talking to my siblings today, because we're talking every day now about my mom and about ourselves and all that stuff. But today it was just like, only 6 more days. 6 more days until this election is over. Oh my God. And who knows? And that doesn't even mean things will be better in 6 days, but I do feel like I just can't wait until we're analyzing all the polling and who's ahead and who's behind. It's too much. It's just too much.
Yep. Yeah. agree.
Professor, 6 more days actually up to end of the election in
I
United.
know.
Professor,
And yeah, again, I don't know. So this is fun. Do people have any thoughts about the election, or is this affecting you guys too? I wasn't planning to talk about it, but it's like even my friend Carrie, she lives in Japan. I did a Zoom with her last weekend, and she was like, Jeff, what is going on in America? She's from America, but she lives in Japan now. She's like, what's going on? It is like everybody in my life is talking about. It's crazy. It's crazy.
So, because Professor, as you know, after globalization, after the World War II, it's different. One country has effect to the other one, especially the United States as a great economic in the world, and also as a lead for human rights being or this kind of stuff. Most of the country and most of plans and project and this kind of stuff, other parts of the world, they're waiting for the result of the election in the United States.
Of course.
Yeah, especially in my country, the peace negotiations as well. I guess they're stopped, and also they're wait for election.
Yeah, it does feel, I love that, Fada. It does feel like the whole world is just kind of waiting. Like you said, I was reading about politicians in Germany talking about NATO and the NATO alliance and how that could change. So I know, yeah, it's a good point, Fada, about how it's not just us, it's the whole world. Gazwan, did I see your hand too?
yes, Professor, do you mind if I ask, how's your mom doing so far?
She's okay. Thank you so much. Fada was asking too. The last 2 weeks have been really up and down. They're trying to get her to be able to walk again. So that means a lot of physical therapy in the skilled nursing facility where she is. But that's just meant that as she tries to push her body more to be able to walk, new things come up, right? So it's like anything for any disease, when you change your behavior, new things come up. So it's just been a lot more up and down every day. So again, you try not to feel like perfectly happy with good news and really sad with bad news, but it does feel like, oh my gosh, like so much up and down every single day. But like I
The
said,
roller coaster. Yeah.
exactly, Hiroe, exactly. So for me, I think it's hard too, because I'm used to being there with her all day, every day, but she's in Stockton. So my brother's in Stockton, he's there doing a lot of the support. So I'm talking to him and talking to the nurses. And so it's just a lot of up and down. But thank you, Gazwan. And I could say it's a lot of up and down. And even though that's scary and difficult, I just know she's where she needs to be. You know, she's getting the medical care that she needs. But it's still up and down and still scary. And you know, anytime they have a COVID infection in her nursing facility, then they have to test, and then so it's like a phone call, like, okay, we're testing everybody again, and it's like, oh God. And it seems
Yeah,
it's okay, you know, she doesn't have COVID, but it's still just like, oh God, it's just super stressful, super stressful.
yeah, it is.
Mm. And just like for all of you, I know everybody has this kind of stuff going on in their own life too. So I think it's very kind of you all to ask me. I really appreciate it, because I know I'm not the only one. So anybody else ideas about the I do have a pretty, I love the lesson for today, but anybody else have any like non-class stuff?
I have about the election.
Yeah, sure, please.
Actually, I'm doing a research about the election for the other class,
Oh, good.
and I'm trying to find the result with the merging of era. I've been looking almost 2-3 days. I'm searching every the website, but I couldn't find the result.
The
I mean,
results for what?
the predicting result for the U.S. House Representative, Assemblyman.
For California specifically?
Yes.
Yeah, generally speaking, a lot of the predictions that we see about national polling are, you know, again, America, the way we do things in terms of electing a president is just so strange because of the Electoral College. So because the Electoral College basically means that if the results are already obvious for the national election, we don't do polls. And California is very clearly going to vote for Biden. So because California is kind of, we already know the results of the presidential election in California, we just don't get a lot of polls. And that means we don't get a lot of polls, not only about the president, but also for, you know, Prop 22 or assembly members or district members. So that's a reason there's just not a lot of good polling or predictions for California, because the election results in California don't matter for the national election. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, got it. Thank you so much.
So that's not, I wish I could show, like, give you a link where there are good polls, but at least that's the reason I can tell you why there aren't a lot of good polls in California. If you want polls of Florida, oh my God, you can have, you know, 30 polls
Yeah,
a day or Pennsylvania, you know, you can get a lot of good data about that. But California, it's just not, it's not a swing state, so we don't get a lot of polls.
Well, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, great question, Gazwan. Anybody else? Election anxiety or election question? Open questions.
Yeah. They actually said, Professor, that if Texas turns to Biden, then it's for sure that he's going to win.
Inshallah, please, inshallah. From your lips to God's ears. There's another English idiom for you. From your mouth to God's ears. That would be great, Jay. For me, my opinion. I'll just be very clear about my opinion. I think that would be great. I think that would be great.
How about Florida?
How about Florida? Florida, I don't know what to say about Florida, Letty. Florida is like another country in my mind. I don't know. Every time I think I know something about Florida, they do something crazy. I have no idea. Fada, tell me.
So if you know clearly about the Texas, exactly, you can talk more clearly about the Florida, because mostly the Texas maybe give vote for President Trump, and Florida is from the swing states.
Yeah.
And especially now. But I guess Texas is like they give him vote for Democrat, for Republicans, and that's, I guess, clear.
Yeah, well, Kamala Harris is going to Texas this week because what they are trying to do is get people who don't usually vote, typically Latino voters, to vote in this election, right? Like, so they're trying to get enough people who usually don't vote to try and change that in terms of the state. But you're exactly correct, Fada. I mean, traditionally, Texas is very, very red, just like California is very, very blue, you know.
Yep. So in Texas, I read the article that so the Texas law, I mean state law, they need some like uh, specific ID to participate in election, like driving license,
Yes,
or in some places the polling station is so far from people up to 300 miles,
I know.
and lots of people do not have driving license. And in the article, they were quoted, for example, for a student card. I mean, college student card, you can buy lots of things like games, this kind of stuff. But with with student card, you cannot give him vote in
Correct.
election, and this is it's a kind of problem in the Texas, as the article mentioned.
Yeah, Fada is exactly correct. I mean, again, the United States, the way we do elections is just so strange. But yeah, each state has its own laws about what they can make voters show before they're able to vote. And yes, Texas has a very strict rule about ID and it. I mean, basically, it just makes it more difficult to vote in some of these states versus other states where it's much easier to vote. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
absolutely correct, Fada.
But
I see Natasha.
what thing is good about Florida is that Florida's state laws give the chance for the staff that count the vote before
They
the
can start counting.
election.
Texas
Yeah,
too. Texas too.
Texas
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, Texas they can start early. Florida can start early. Some like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, you
No.
cannot start early. So it's just a it's a it's a nightmare. Natasha, I saw your hand raised. What's up? And then we'll talk about poetry because it's much more joyful to talk about poetry than Donald Trump. Natasha,
Ye-
please.
Yeah, I agree with you. So my question is, in my back country, in Ukraine,
Yeah.
the presidential election based on popularity vote, on the people's choice. Why here is different?
I can give you a short answer. Historically,
Yes.
the answer is racism. Historically, the rules
Okay.
that were created now were to prevent. They recognized that the slaves that they brought from Africa would add to population. So the first rule that the United States did was decide to count Black people or enslaved people as only 3/5 of a person. So if you ever took a U.S. history class, you could see about something called the 3/5 compromise, which was the northern states wanted to count slaves as human beings, as a full human being for representation in population. The southern states did not want that. They only wanted white people to be counted towards the population of that state. So the compromise was called the 3/5 compromise, which one slave would count as 3/5 of a person in terms of representation. Now, even with that level of representation, there was still going to be enough population in the slave states to potentially threaten slavery. Because of course, the people, even at the founding in 1776, people in the North famously did not want slavery, people in the South did. So the compromise, even after the 3/5 compromise, was okay, well, even with 3/5 compromise, there still could maybe be enough people so that the popular vote in some of these states could be enough to have abolition, to end slavery. So the compromise was this thing called the Electoral College, which was again to try and give more power to states where there were less people. And we're just still living with that nonsense. Because again, Hillary won by 3.5 million more votes, 3.5 million more votes. Donald Trump, no, even if Donald Trump is reelected, they're not even trying to win the popular vote. I mean, there's predictions that he will lose by 4 million votes. So again, you could take a whole class on it, but and maybe other people would disagree with my assessment here. But I think eventually the history will be clear here. Why is the Electoral College a thing? Why does it exist? It has to do with slavery, period, end of statement. And anyone who argues otherwise is usually trying to deny how big of an impact slavery had on the foundation of our government. But it just did. I agree with you, Natasha. I hope someday maybe we can go to the popular vote. I don't know, because wouldn't it be good if like Joe Biden and Donald Trump, neither of them have to care about California. No one comes to California to run for president because it doesn't matter, because it's a foregone conclusion. And I just think that's not a good system where where Biden and Trump, neither Biden nor Trump have to worry about trying to convince us to vote for them. That sucks, I think. That sucks. But anyway. Okay, I'll stop talking. We should talk about poetry now. But if you ever want to talk about the Electoral College or all that good stuff, it sounds like Gazwan is studying some of this stuff. Yeah, I don't have a degree in political science, but it is something I've studied a lot. So anyway, all right, let's switch gears. Natasha, I'm going to lower your hand. Cool. So today we can add election talk at the beginning. And then I do have some announcements that I want to make. I do want to do a sort of check-in and class discussion, and then I'm going to talk about poets and poetry today. I might talk more than usual today. I've prepared a bunch of slides. In the slides, I do have some activities for us to practice some of the ideas from the poets that I sent out the YouTube video for, but I've got some slides today, so I might talk a little bit more than usual. Usama, do I see your hand before we get started?
Yes, it is about the election, about
yeah, please.
Expectation when the results appear. There
Yeah.
is some worry if there is some conflict, some violence will happen. Some people are buying rifles, buying weapons, and making militias, and so it is very scary.
I agree.
But they say it is always like this. And in 2016, it is the same the thing. I don't know.
I think it's way worse. I think it's way worse now. I think I was never scared in 2016 of violence, but I do think even now, like if it's close, either way, I am worried about violence. And like you said, again, part of our the U.S. Constitution is guns, but guns, it's the guns that worry me, like you said, Usama. I think the only thing that makes me feel more peaceful is, we live in Sacramento. If unless you live up in I don't think that here in Sacramento we have too much to worry about. I think that in other states there are issues, or if people live in other more rural parts of California, that could be scary too. But I think I'm with you. I think it's a scary time. It's a scary time. I wish I didn't have to say that, but I'm always honest with you guys. I'm worried. I think I'm hopeful. I think things will be okay, but I think that it's easy to imagine things not being okay. Sadly. Gazwan?
Yes.
You got one more thing?
Yes, please. About the river speaks.
Oh yeah, about our poetry book, about the river speaks. What's up?
Is there more audio sounds or just for the chapter one?
There will be, yeah, there will be. Not yet,
yeah.
but there will be.
Actually, I enjoy seeing you reading it because it's really focusing on the important things.
Good. So, I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. So let's talk about that. So we, if you want to stress about the election, you can send me a text or email. I'm happy to go there, but let's get going. So speaking of announcements, so first, I just wanted to talk about first announcement is the midterm. So the midterm is now published in Canvas. I've given you a lot more time to complete the midterm. It's now due by 8 a.m. Monday, November 2nd. So like I said, on the syllabus, it says I have to give you timed writing. And so I was going to say it's 24 hours, but I just want to make sure you have enough time. You don't feel stressed. And that's my goal, is to give you a lot more time. So I see people's hands. I will not forget. I'm going to keep coming back, but I'm going to finish and then I'll take questions. Okay. So I'm asking you to respond to a new literacy narrative and identify the theme of the narrative. Then I want you to just analyze one example of your choosing and explain how it is related to the theme you identified. So I'm going to show you in Canvas. Again, if you have questions, hold on to them. I just want to show you guys this first. So if you go to the midterm, here's what it looks like. So read the linguistic narrative, say it with noodles, just like usual. You can preview it. I feel like download is always faster now, you guys. So you can preview it or you can just download it. So I'm going to download it. I think you will really enjoy this narrative. Again, it's what's called a graphic novel. So you'll actually see that there's a lot of images. It almost looks like sort of what you might used to call a comic book. But when comic books use these literary genres, often these are referred to as graphic novels. I'll put this in the chat just for the spelling. If you're interested in this, this is becoming a much more common sort of genre, and even things like Pulitzer Prizes or some of the very famous literary awards. These are becoming much more. There's here becoming much more common. Hold on one second here. So I see your chat in the comment here, and I'll go back to it. So first, I just want you to read this linguistic narrative. It will take you very little time, right? Lots of images. And not a lot of text. So the point is not to ask you to read something super long. It's to ask you to apply some of the analysis that we've been practicing to a sort of the same genre, but with some different ideas. So then just review our lectures and materials. Again, you don't have to do this, but I am going to ask you to talk about theme, narrative, and descriptive writing. So if you need some help reviewing those ideas, you can always go back to our course materials and then write a short 500-word minimum. I think I already said this in this class before, but in MLA formatting, a paragraph is 250 words double spaced. So 500 words is really like a page. I don't want you to stress. I just want you to read something that I think you'll enjoy reading and then practice writing about it. So in your writing, I want you to write a clear thesis statement explaining what the theme of the narrative is. So this isn't one with a fully right or wrong answer, but I am going to ask you to tell me what you think the theme of this narrative is. Then I want you to write about a specific example of descriptive writing. So that could be words or pictures, and then explain how this descriptive element, this part of the story, connects to the theme. And then you can just write a short conclusion about your own personal feelings or connection to the material. So again, 500 words, that's really only 2 paragraphs as a minimum. I want you to tell me what you think the theme of this story is. I want you to analyze one specific example of description, whether that's words or images, and how it connects to the theme. And then just write a short conclusion talking about your own opinions, feelings, or ideas about the narrative. So I see a bunch of hands, and I want to go to Hiroi first. Are you having problems accessing it in Canvas, Hiroi?
Yes, I didn't see, I checked it, but it was empty when I go to that assignment through modules
Can you go
or for the grades.
Go to modules. Okay, let's see.
There's nothing listed.
Is anybody else having problems accessing the midterm in Canvas? Oh, I see grades different than you guys. I remember now. Anybody else having problems accessing this?
I didn't check it.
Okay, that's fine.
I already checked it. That's fine.
I will check it later. You can continue. Maybe it is now uploaded.
I'm gonna try to refresh it because Jay is saying she's still having problems too. So let me try one other thing here. While I'm checking the computer, the technology side, does what I'm asking you guys to do make sense? Any questions about these instructions?
No, it works.
Not yet.
Because we can't see it.
If we go
right.
to assignment, it will appear. The midterm is here.
Can you see it, Usama?
Yes, but through assignment, not through the modules.
Modules. Okay, let's see.
So the assignment is take me to the midterm because it is this is upcoming assignment, midterm and final.
I'm gonna try adding a new module here. Let me see if this helps. So I'm just gonna call this a module of the midterm. See if you reload your page, can you access it that way?
Does it matter here or there?
Yeah, I'm just saying, I wonder what's going on here. There might be a duplicate assignment. Midterm module. Midterm, 50 out of 50.
It's
I
actually working
okay.
out.
You got it, Jay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I think it was something that I needed to update or refresh. So if you can see it, Jay, here away, same thing. If you reload your page, tell me if you can see it, but I'm happy. Jay told me she couldn't see it, and now she could. So that makes me hopeful. Anybody else? Gazwan,
Okay.
anything else? Or anybody else? Or questions about this midterm stuff? Anybody?
Oh no, it's fine.
Okay, cool. So yeah, 500 words, submit a Word doc. This is what it looks like. Anybody else before I move on to the next thing?
Professor, this doesn't have time limit, right?
This is due, so I'm changing it so that it's due November 2nd. So that's whatever, 5 or 6 days. So it's open now. And again, just to make sure that I'm following the rules of the college, which says I have to give you timed writing. So it's open now and you have whatever, 6 or 7 days. So today, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 days, 5 days.
No, like what I mean is like if you take it, there's no time limit.
Oh, no. Yeah, there's no, once you start, thank you, Jay. So Jay's saying, once you start, is there a 2-hour time limit? No, your time limit is whatever, 5 days times 24 hours, 120 hours. Yes, Osama, what's up?
Yeah, I have a suggestion to make it next Wednesday, not my next Monday, if possible, to be after the election.
I'll be honest with you. We're going to talk about timing here. Someone else is chatting. Yes, I can see it also. Perfect. Thank you, Hirway. And thank you for bringing it up. Let's do this, Usama. Keep it, and I'll say this to anyone who's watching. Hello, if you're not here. I'm going to keep it November 2nd. Usama, if you need more time, email me or text me and we'll work it out. Okay? Make sense?
Yes.
So do it as soon as you can. If you need more time, just let me know, Osama, okay?
Okay.
Anybody else about the midterm? I think that you'll love this story. It's really lovely. It's really, really beautiful. And I think it's fun and interesting to see different genres and different ways of doing like a graphic novel. So enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it. My intention is not for you to feel stressed, but just for you to practice a skill that we've been working on this semester. Okay, last call for that. I have another announcement. And that's this. So this is to Natalia's question earlier. One, about grading, about your linguistic narratives, and even about lesson 15 and some of the other lessons, and just missing class last week, not having a Zoom meeting. I am behind and I feel bad about it. It's not your job to make me feel better, but I just want to be honest with you. I hate it. I hate feeling behind, and I hate feeling like I am causing you guys to feel confused or not sure about what to do next. I'm very sorry about that. I take it very seriously. And the next point is, I say this because I was in grad school only like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, finishing my second master's. I know what it's like to be a student. You work really hard on a project and then you have to wait. It sucks and it's not fun. And I hate that I'm doing that to you. I also just want to tell you, I think you already know, but it's important for me to tell you, I want you to know that I really care a lot about your writing, not for the grade, but just for your writing. And I want to make sure that I look at it when I actually have time to respond and give you meaningful feedback. And it takes a lot of time to do that. It's really easy to look at something and give you no feedback, but just give you 82 points out of 100. A lot of teachers do that. I don't like to do that. So it takes a lot of time to try to give you guys the feedback and comments that I like to give you. And I just couldn't do it over the last 2 weeks because of my own health, my own family, my own life. And I just know that it impacts you, and I'm sorry about that. And then the other thing is to just tell you, I will grade this stuff as soon as humanly possible. So that's it. I just want to tell you, I am aware and I'm sorry about it. And you don't have to tell me it's okay. I know this is a very kind group and I know that you're very generous, but it's important for me to be honest with you guys, like always. Usama, you have a question or idea?
Yes, what about the second the draft, the assignment.
Yeah, this is the biggest reason that I feel bad about it takes more time is you can't work on your revision until I give you feedback for the first one. So you'll still have time to revise and resubmit for a higher score. You will definitely still have time to do that. I know it just means it's later in the semester and that affects your course, your other classes. So again, I understand, I totally understand, but you will still have time if you are able to do it. Make sense?
Yes, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Anybody else? Gazwan, is your hand still up from earlier or is it a new hand?
I think it's from earlier. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Perfect, no
No,
problem.
I just put it down. Thank you.
Good. So I know that doesn't really exactly answer your question, Natalia, because Natalia's point, or I was thinking about Natalia's question, yes, seeing your grade on the literacy narrative can help inform you for the midterm, right? Is your analysis good? Did you clearly identify the theme? I completely understand. And again, all I can say there is when it's time to grade the midterm, I will grade knowing that, you didn't get a lot of feedback about your specific analysis. So I don't have it for you before the midterm, but I will grade the midterm aware of that, if that makes sense, Natalia.
Yes, thank you.
Of course. Usama, what's up?
Professor, can I consider your revision to my work is to make my second draft as regarding to your notes? Can I do it?
Of course, yeah. Oh yeah, of course, of course. That's the goal. That's my hope. That's how I always do classes. It's just that with 4 online classes for the first time ever, and creating all the content, and I just didn't have time to spend on the essays the way I usually like to yet. So what you just said, Usama, is exactly the way I teach, which is I'll give you some comments, give you some feedback, and I hope those comments help you as you revise. 100% yes, Usama.
Sure, certainly. Yeah.
Cool. If that's the case, please do not evaluate my essay until the midterm is over. Okay, Hideaway.
Good.
Yes. Again, as you guys know, I think again, as you guys know, it's such a fine line. I know that the grades are important. They're important to you, and it means a lot. And at the same time, you guys, I think, know I care about the grades as much as you care about them. Do you know what I mean? The idea that the grade tells you if you're learning or not is just, I don't really buy it. So anyway, okay. Any questions? I was going to talk a little bit more and do a small group thing about check-ins, but maybe we can do this next time because I really do want to talk about poetry today. Any other questions, ideas, concerns about any of this the business stuff? Any other questions about that stuff? Cool.
Professor?
Yeah.
I have a question about the poetry, the one that you asked us to copy and paste.
Yes.
So I was wondering, do we have to submit the written one and then also attach the recordings?
Yes, I'm going to talk about that at the end of class J, but the short answer is yes.
Okay.
Makes sense? And then I'll show you, that's the last thing I'm going to do the last 10 minutes or so is explain that assignment and how to do it and all that stuff.
Okay. Thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you, Jay. All right. So I'll talk about this next time. So can I also just either blue thumbs up or show me thumbs up or anything? Can I ask how many people here got to watch the YouTube videos? Who watched the poetry videos? If you did not, that is okay, but I just want to know. Okay, good.
I watched.
Oh, good. Okay, guys. Okay, everybody who's here, it makes sense. If you come to the Zoom meetings, you probably care enough to watch the videos. So, great. Okay, so can I ask just real quick? I'm going to talk about all 3 of those poems because I chose all 3 of those poems because they represent some very specific things that I want to talk about in terms of teaching and reading poetry and talking about poetry. So, but real quick, just first, What were your thoughts? I know there's a discussion post that I didn't put out there, so I'll talk more about the discussion, but some people like Hiroe and Natalia, some people already posted. What were your just responses or thoughts about these poems? Anything, just a few minutes, and then I'll teach you all about what you listened to. Thoughts about the poems? No thoughts. How about what? Did you like them? We could go really simplistic. Did you like them? Did you not like them? What do you remember? We could keep it real basic.
I would say very mysterious
Oh, go on, Hiroe. Hiroe says mysterious. Okay.
and philosophical.
Sure. Okay, mysterious,
So
philosophical. That sounds like me, I think. Yes,
so
Pablo, what's up?
for me, it was a little hard for understanding.
Yes.
Not
What-
a little hard for understanding.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. That's perfect answer. Usama, what'd you think?
I can say I was excited to listen to you and to the others how
Yes.
they are perform the poems of Emily Dickinson,
Yes.
the others. They, it, it is really just to listen and to sense, to know all the details. The most important thing, what I am feeling, what is the reaction, my internal reaction,
Yes.
psychological reaction,
Yes.
social, from many perspectives
Yes.
is the influence on me.
Good.
And these poems were really amazing. I try to catch the rhythm.
The rhythm, yeah.
Yes, I try to catch different vocabularies and how they are meaning several things, direct and indirect meaning that and that push me to think how the author write this and what he wants me to understand
Yeah.
and what I am understand.
Love it. Great. Usama's really talking like from The River Speaks. If you watch the video for chapter 1, or if you read chapter 2, or Gazwan was saying he's read all 1, 2, 3, and 4, or 4 and 5. Usama's sort of getting at this idea that Professor Noor talks about in that book about often with poetry, we feel like we're trained to feel like, oh my God, like there's one true meaning for this poem, and it's my job to figure out what that one true meaning is, and I have to understand. But I love what Usama was saying, and really what Professor Noor really encourages in chapter 1 is first just start with how does it affect me, right? How did I feel? What did I notice? What do I remember? And that can hopefully set us free from some of the ways poetry sometimes is talked about, which again is like, what I don't understand it, and I should understand the one perfect meaning of the poem. And that can feel like a lot of pressure when we think that way. You know what I mean? Good. Anybody else have 1 or 2 more people? Anybody else initial reactions to the poem before the 3 poems?
Well,
yeah, Letty, you said you loved it. Why? Tell us.
Yes, I tell them because the poems say, tell the truth, but tell Islam, but they say indirectly. And the thing I understand because I read a lot of time and say what this mean. This mean is human always scared about the truth. You don't want to hear the truth. You want to say if they lie you, and they lie you, and they lie you because they don't want to hurt you. They don't want to hurt you feeling. They don't want to hurt you psychologically or in a lot of ways. But you scared to hear the truth. That's happened with a human. That's what I think Dickinson want to say in that poem.
Love it. Letty's going right to the poetic analysis. She's telling us the humans and the truth and fearing the truth. And that's what I love it, Letty. I absolutely love it. I love it. That's all. That's perfect. So we'll get to do a little bit more of this, just sort of responding to the poem. We will definitely do more of that in the discussion activities and next week, but I do want to make sure that I am introducing some of the most important words that we use to analyze and talk about poetry. So I'm going to do that by those 3 poems that I asked you guys to read. And so I'm going to start with Emily Dickinson. I chose these 3 poets as well because all 3 of these poets are really, really, what would I say? Like huge examples of American poetry. You know, before the 1800s, there really was no such thing as American poetry. Really, there was no such thing as American literature, right? I mean, the earliest literature that came from the United States was English authors, French and English authors who were born in Europe and then came to the United States. Now, again, that's very interesting, but it really wasn't until the 1800s, the 19th century, that anything kind of close to American literature existed. And really, when it comes to fiction, a lot of that work began with Mark Twain and the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Now, again, you don't need to worry about that too much, but the reason I'm mentioning it is because American literature really started when authors started to use the English language the way that it was being used in the United States. And often that meant talking about the language of Black slaves or of free Black people. That meant talking about the language of immigrants who had come to the United States and were sort of having that mixture of their first language and English together. And as well, people who were born in England and came from this old tradition of English literature, you know, the language of Shakespeare, and how that connected with this new sort of form of English that was happening in the United States at the time. So each of these 3 poets that I chose really are huge, huge figures in creating what American literature and what American poetry was. And they also represent one aspect of poetry that I want to talk about for the next few weeks, specifically meter, rhythm, rhyme, some of the things that you read about in the River Speaks chapter 1, and even in chapter 2 as well. So I wanted to do some basic information about these 3 poets, why they're so important, and then to look at the 3 poems that I asked you guys to listen to as examples of some of these poetic features. So first, about Emily Dickinson. Again, like Letty already said, this was Tell the Truth, but Tell It Slant. That was the poem that the video that I sent you guys. So again, speaking of timing here, Emily Dickinson was actually the earliest American writer of these 3 authors that I asked you to listen to. She's from Amherst, Massachusetts. She's born in 1830 and she dies in 1886. Dickinson, you might have noticed this in the poem, and they talk about it in the YouTube video as well. She is very famous for playing with meter, rhythm, and slant rhyme. And we're going to look at what slant rhyme means in a minute. But just like they said in the video, if you talk about slant rhyme, it means words that kind of rhyme, but not fully, right? So like see and me is an example of a perfect rhyme, right? Those go perfectly together. But you can start to do a slant rhyme if you're rhyming 1-syllable words with more syllables. And maybe they share one sound, but they don't share all of the sounds to create a full rhyme. And we're going to see some examples of this in her poem as well. She also played with things like punctuation. You definitely noticed the dash if you saw the written down version. Well, you saw it in the YouTube video. So the idea that why Emily Dickinson really stands out as being important for American literature and poetry is she started to play with these traditional meters, rhythms, and rhymes. And I said as like almost like a remix of traditional meter of hymns, songs, and psalms. And again, things you probably already know about poetry in general, but poetry comes from when human beings were using oral language much more than written language, right? So poetry predates massive writing or sort of the printing press. Certainly the invention of the printing press changes all of this. But poetry has much more connections to music, which has deep connections to hymns, songs, and psalms. Hymns and psalms just refer, at least in Christianity, to songs or hymns, rhyming poems that are in the Bible. But of course, I know that this is the case for religions all over the world, where originally a lot of the messages came in things that looked like poems, right? Because our brain tends to remember things more naturally with rhythm and rhymes. So Dickinson, as we're going to see in the next poem here, she 100% uses traditional rhythm and meter, but she starts to play around with that a little bit. She was almost entirely unknown as a poet when she was living. She was not famous, she was not successful, and this is due largely to sexism at the time. Mostly this is because she was a woman in 1830. And for example, of the 1,800 poems that she wrote, only 10 were ever published in her lifetime. And she famously said, this is a very famous quote that gets attributed to Emily Dickinson, is that women then have not had a dog's chance of writing poetry. That is why I have laid so much stress on money and a room of one's own. And in fact, in the American push for women to be able to vote in the United States, of course, that happens at the beginning of the 20th century. This idea of a room of one's own, that women should be able to own the things that they have, own their own homes, own their own space. And that this idea that a poet, an artist, really needed a space that was their own space, instead of feeling like they were relying on other people or relying on their husbands or relying on their fathers. So if you ever see in English, in American English especially, a room of one's own, that goes all the way back to Emily Dickinson, but it gets used in a lot of different contexts just to talk about women's empowerment, right? Women's equality and women's empowerment. Does this make sense? That's my like very fast biography of Emily Dickinson. I am going to focus with Emily Dickinson on meter, but any questions about Emily Dickinson, that very short background about her life, anything? Cool. Usama, you're muted.
Isn't she a novel writer?
I mean, she wrote a lot. I mean, as you can see, 1,800 poems. She wrote a lot of, she did write fiction, she did write short stories, she absolutely did. But typically, again, if you're taking an American literature class, then you're going to read it as a poet.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. You might have seen, if you ever Google her or look at her Wikipedia page, you'll see this word in the chat. Oh, I see people posting in the chat. Hey, Natasha says she just voted. Good job, Natasha. You'll see this word, prolific. She was a very prolific writer. Prolific means a person who produces, who creates a lot of things. So when you say she was a very prolific writer, it means she wrote a lot, right? Some authors maybe only write 2 or 3 or 4 famous books. She wrote a lot. So that would include novels and fiction, like you were saying, Osama. Okay, so let's look at her poem, the poem that I had you read. And this poem is a really rich example of poetic meter, and how I said on the last slide, Emily Dickinson is very famous for using meter very, very effectively, but for playing with it a little bit. So you sort of see rhythm and meter that makes sense, but then she changes it just a little bit to keep the reader surprised. So as I have here, and again, as it says in The River Speaks, meter is the regular pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables that gives a line of poetry a predictable rhythm. And this is true for any line of poetry. And again, basically by line, I just mean, where does the poet stop and start the line, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines in this poem, right? Now, when we talk about meter, you start to think about not just each line by itself, but also each word by itself, right? So that means you have to sort of look at the syllables in a word. So we have tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Now, again, really interestingly, in each of those words in this first line, they're all 1-syllable words, right? Usama is saying 1-syllable words. Now, it's only in the second line that we get some multi-syllable words, success in circuit lies. So I'm going to ask, just as an example, to start thinking about this poem and to start really feeling it in our bones, like Usama was saying. Success, 2 syllables. Where's the stress on success? The first or the second syllable?
Second.
Good. Hiro is saying success. Absolutely, right? So it's success. And how about in circuit? First syllable or second syllable?
First.
Hiro is saying first, but she's a little less confident. Doing Success in circuit lies. Where am I putting the stress on this word? Circuit. Is it circuit or circuit?
Circuit.
The first part, Professor.
Absolutely. Fada's saying the first syllable, right? So success here, the stress in terms of the meter here is the stressed syllable is the second, and the second in this word circuit, the stressed syllable is the first syllable, right? And how about this? Too bright for our infirm delight. Too is one syllable. Bright is one syllable. For is one syllable. Our is one syllable. Infirm. Where's the stress on infirm? First or second syllable?
Second.
Good. And how about delight?
Second.
Here we're saying second. Do we agree? Infirm delight.
First.
Delight.
Delight.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I said delight.
Fada says delight. Hiroe says delight. Well, this is again, let's find out. Any other ideas on this word delight? Okay, I'll talk about this word in a second. And we'll just do a couple more lines together. The truth's superb surprise. The is one syllable. Truth's one syllable. Superb. Where's the stress?
Second.
Good. And I'm sort of giving it away as I say it, superb, right? It's superb, not superb, right? So superb, superb, second syllable is stressed. And how about surprise? First or second syllable?
Second.
Good. Ahmad is saying second syllable. So again, in a full poetry class, a full semester, we could do this for every line of every poem we read. I'm not going to make you do that. I don't expect you to do that. But does this make sense that when we talk about meter of a poem, we're talking about how each syllable of every word in every line starts to flow together to give a poem rhythm or not. When we look at Walt Whitman, we're going to see an example of poetry that's typically called free verse, which means there's not a lot of rhythm built in. The poet's not trying to really trying to force you to say the lines a certain way with rhythm or with rhyming. But does this idea make sense that meter means stressed and unstressed syllables? Does
So,
that
Professor, when we read the poems and also we give him the rhythm, and also in the other way, correct stress on each word, then the poems change, I guess. And in my languages, it's the same in Arabic as well. But I don't know in English. But I guess it's changed. If it's do not have music like
yes,
something written like that, and then the poems will be out from the structure, from the form.
Good. I completely agree here. Why I think poetry is so wonderful is when the poem is working, when it's effective, the language, the every choice of every word in the poem is guiding you into how it wants to be said. Absolutely, Fada. So especially this is 8 lines, right? But like Letty was saying, in 8 lines, we get a lot of dense meaning. And I firmly believe part of that dense meaning comes from the way that Emily Dickinson put the words together to guide you to say it. And then, of course, that affects how we feel about the words as they come out. So you're exactly correct, Fada. The reason poetry is difficult, I think, is finding, I think, in The River Speaks, Professor Noor talks about, you find yourself in the flow of the poem. You find yourself in the rhythm, right? You kind of bend to the poem instead of the poem bending to you. And that is that's a metaphor by itself, but it is a kind of example of how the rhythm and meter do matter to the meaning of the poem, which is, challenging, but I think very exciting as well. Anybody else? Yes. Ahmad, did you have something?
I want to add something, as Fada said just recently. Yes, in different languages, they actually use the different rhythms. And as my understanding, and like in our language, consistency of each lines is really matter. But in English, it's totally different.
Yes, and we're going to see, I'm starting with Emily Dickinson and with Langston Hughes because they're American poets who do use rhythm and meter. They really, really do. But then when we get to Walt Whitman, it's kind of like you blow it all up and do whatever you want. But again, you do have some of the classic features. When you think about poetry in whatever language, typically you tend to get rhyme and rhythm and meter are the ways that we sort of guide the author, the reader, to understand how the poem wants to be read. Right now, And again, remember I was saying Emily Dickinson, very famous for rhythm and meter, not as famous for rhymes. Do we have any rhymes in this poem, really?
I think we see on first and second part, and actually, yes, I can split all the whole poem into two parts, and they're kind of rhymes at the ending, like on lies and surprise and kind and blind.
Good, really nice, very nice. So again, thank you very much. Hero, I see your hand too. You're going to go next. But again, if you're watching at home, what Ahmad just said is very important, which the rhythm of these poems, usually we are used to rhyming on the last word of the line, right? Now, again, if you love this stuff, go read and study chapter 5, because he goes into deep depth about rhythms and trochees and feet, and you can go very, very deep, but we don't have time and I don't want to scare you. So we could go into each line having its own internal rhythm. But usually I think for everybody, regardless of language, we think about rhyming usually on the last word of the line. So Ahmad is exactly correct to say lies and surprise, right? Kind and blind, absolutely, absolutely. Now I will point out as well, there are other slant rhymes in here. Like I was saying, slant. So even the idea that when she says slant, she's playing with ideas here. A slant rhyme is maybe a rhyme that happens inside the line, or rhymes that happen but not at the end of the line. So for example, the word success lies. Hold on, where did it go? Success in circuit. Where did it go? Where did it go? I know it's in Langston Hughes. Give me a second to find it. So I'll show you an example of slant rhyme in a moment. But I just want to I'm going to talk about rhyme much more in the Langston Hughes poem. But I just want to repeat what Ahmad said there, which is usually when we think about rhythm and meter, we think about the lines have a similar rhythm and then they end with a rhyme at the end of the line. This is very common, and this is much more common again for songs, poetry, psalms, and some of the more traditional forms of literature that come before poetry starts to get written down. Absolutely. Hero, I saw your hand come up. What's up?
No, the Ahmed said everything what I found too.
Perfect. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, instead of talking about rhyme with this poem, which I want to talk about rhyme with Langston Hughes, I do want to talk about rhythm and meter. Because there is a sort of regular rhythm and meter. And again, if you want to, if you really, I'll put this in the chat too. This is sort of, I'll just put the Wikipedia. I don't know exactly what this is, but it'll be basic information for you guys in the chat. So iambic pentameter is what Shakespeare wrote all of his plays in. All the poetry is in iambic pentameter, and it just refers to a regular rhythm of poetry. And really what that rhythm is very basically was stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. So it just repeats, right? And again, if you hear about Shakespeare, oftentimes the rhythm of Shakespeare, people compare it to a heartbeat because it's bum, 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 bum. This is a very common structure. And in fact, as I said on the slide before this, much of Emily Dickinson's poems, when she is using meter, does feature some of this iambic pentameter stuff. But again, that doesn't matter too much for us. What I do want you to start to notice, and I'm going to read the poem a couple times, and you got to hear it in the video, but I'll read it a couple times, and I just want you to tell me specifically what words do you hear me stressing and not stressing, and where do you sense sort of the rhythm? What this activity really is just to see if you can practice hearing where the rhythm wants to go, if that makes sense. So I'm going to read it a couple times. When I do, just try to underline or circle, maybe identify words that you think get stressed, and therefore, of course, which words don't get stressed, okay? So, tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. Too bright for our infirm delight, the truth's superb surprise. As lightning to the children eased, with explanation kind, the truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. So I'll read it again. All your see what words am I stressing? Where do they happen on the line is also important things to pay attention to. So again, tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. Too bright for our infirm delight, the truth's superb surprise. As lightning to the children eased, with explanation kind, the truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. Where do you guys hear stress?
In the middle of the first line, I saw the stress where the word truth comes.
Good. Ahmed, good. Go ahead. Yeah. Ahmed says truth. What else?
And the same line, tell it. That's where the stress comes in.
Nice. Okay. Perfect.
Slant, and then success and circuit, or the other stresses on the first line.
Love it. Good. What else? What other words, keywords did people hear?
The bright and delight has that one. The truth, the word truth, surprise and surprise. Surprise. Those are the other ones I noticed it.
Good. I love it.
As
I
light
and also dazzle.
Good. Hala,
I'm sorry,
Hala,
go ahead.
Hala. No, perfect. Hala, and then Hiroe. Hala, what did you notice?
Blind.
Good. Hala saying blind gets stressed. What
Yeah.
else? Perfect.
I
Hiroe.
heard dazzle gradually.
Dazzle gradually. Good. Good, good, good. Anybody else? Letty?
Also on the east.
Where?
Children east.
Good. As lightning the two children, as lightning to the children eased. Good. I'll show you where I think the stress is, and then we can talk about how this connects to stressed and unstressed syllables. I think this is where I see the rhythm in the poem, and I think I just want to point out what Ahmad said really nicely, which is the place that Emily Dickinson put the word truth in the lines where it exists. Notice truth is never the last word in the line, right? It's never the last syllable of a line. And yet, the way that she put this word truth, it's only one syllable. But when she puts it in between monosyllables that don't get stressed, we sort of naturally go to stress this word. And therefore, we get this repetition of truth. And this is like Fada was saying, if you change the rhythm and the meter, you change the meaning. Because if you're not stressing this idea about truth, then suddenly the meaning of the poem changes. So again, tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. Too bright for our infirm delight, the truth's superb surprise. As lightning to the children eased with explanation kind, the truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. We get this, even though not every word rhymes at the end of each line, again, the way that she's built the rhythm and the way that she's chosen monosyllables versus, in this case, I think we only get words with 2 syllables gradually. That's 3 syllables, I guess. Children, 2 syllable explanation. I think explanation is the longest word we get with 4 syllables, I think, right? So the way that she's chosen the words and the way that she's chosen words with specific syllables changes how the meter goes and how the rhythm of the poem feels, right? Does this make sense or questions? So before I move on, I guess the last thing I'd say is instead of thinking, oh my God, Jeff's going so fast and I still don't understand rhythm and meter, what the number one thing I want you to take away here is when you start to look at a line of poetry and you think about meter and rhythm, just start with how many words are 1 syllable, 2 syllable, and 3 syllable? And if you have if it's a word with 3 or 4 syllables, then start to notice where the stress in that syllable is. For example, this word, explanation, 4 syllables. Where's the stress in that syllable?
First.
The beginning.
Ooh.
PLA, explanation. The last syllable, explanation.
Oh, good. The stress on this word is on the 3rd syllable. The stress.
What?
Yeah, it's explanation. It's not explanation or
That's
explanation
right.
or explanation. It's explanation. Explanation. So it's really, you can really see that an example of how she's playing with rhythm with explanation. So even though it's one word, we see examples of this tell all, because what happens is if you have monosyllables in English, this is why I mentioned the iambic pentameter. If you have monosyllables in English, what will usually happen is the native English speaker will go, okay, I have two syllables together. I have two monosyllables together. So almost always the stress will be on the second syllable, the second monosyllable. So it's tell all the truth, not tell all the truth, right? And it's tell all the truth, but tell it slant, instead of tell all the truth, but tell it slant. So again, you don't need to worry too much about iambic pentameter, but the idea is the stress goes on to the second syllable, right? That's the main idea. And that's what she's playing with here when she has with is a monosyllable. And then we have a 4-syllable word where the stress comes on the third syllable. Oops, we get one more unstressed syllable. And then we very naturally want to stress the last word in the line because we're used to that, right? Like Farah and Ahmad were saying, is usually we're used to rhymes or songs that end at the end of the line. So again, instead of, I'm never going to ask you for points to analyze, tell me or explain the meter or rhythm of a poem. This isn't a poetry class, but I do want you to understand that if the only thing you remember from this is when you think about rhythm and meter in a poem, it means that you need to look at the number of syllables in the lines, the number of syllables in the words in each line in a poem. That's the number one thing I want you to take away. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Good. Any other ideas about this poem? We got 2 more, so I am going faster than usual, but I do want to make sure I can talk about all 3 poems. Any questions about this poem? Good. I love her and I love this poem. I mean, I love all 3 of them and I love all of these poems, but yeah. Okay. So now if you're a person who's thinking about rhyming, you're probably very happy to talk about the Langston Hughes poem. So who's Langston Hughes? Langston Hughes is actually the sort of most contemporary poet between Walt Whitman, Emily Dickinson, and Langston Hughes. He lived entirely in the 20th century. He's born in 1901 and died in 1967. He's born in Joplin, Missouri. So he is born in a northern state, but again, Missouri has a really complex history with race, even after the Civil War ended in the 1860s. So he's born in Joplin, Missouri. He moves as a very young man to New York City and lived in Harlem and is strongly associated with this literary and musical, this cultural movement in the United States called the Harlem Renaissance. I see people typing in the chat. I chose this poem. Good. Natasha says, let America be America again. So again, I'll just put, I should have had a prepared link for you, but I don't need just fashion. So Harlem Renaissance really began and took place during the 1920s and the 1930s as well. But it was a really rich period for Black people in the United States of America. The Civil War was over, and people when the Civil War ended and many of the slaves were freed, a lot of people took place in what was called at the time the Great Migration. And the Great Migration meant that people who had been enslaved and were not free in the South moved in huge numbers. And historically, one of the greatest migrations in human history, but because it wasn't from one country to a different country, people don't tend to talk about it in the same way that huge waves of migration took place in Europe and other places throughout human history. But millions of people left the American South and moved north into free territories. And what happened as a result was in New York City, that's how you had areas of New York City that became predominantly, overwhelmingly Black. And for the first time, you had groups of Black artists, musicians, and authors living together in the same place. And what that produced in New York City was this era called the Harlem Renaissance, which I just posted. And this is where a lot of the cultural contributions that Black people have made to the United States really start to take place. So I'm talking about jazz music, talking about huge advances in music, fashion, design, and of course in literature as well. So when you think about some of the most famous early American Black authors, they come out of the Harlem Renaissance. And Langston Hughes is absolutely sort of one of the leading voices of the Harlem Renaissance as a poet, right? And so, again, if you want more information broadly about the Harlem Renaissance, you can click on that link. But so Langston Hughes is writing in Harlem in New York City in the 1920s and 30s. And as I say on the slide here, he represented the voices of Black Americans who'd only been freed from slavery just about 30 years before. Black Americans who were not able to leave the South were also still experiencing tremendous prejudice, and most Black people were not able to vote until the passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1965, 2 years before Hughes' death. So again, just giving you context for some of the times he was writing in. And again, like Professor Noor talks about in the first chapter of The River Speaks, you don't need to be an expert on the poet, but helping understand a little bit about their life and background will really give you some help for context where they came from. Osama, did you have an idea or question?
No, the understanding gives the idea to understand the point.
It helps, right? And again, you know, there are people who have PhDs in English and they could think about Langston Hughes's life for 40 years, and still their meaning and understanding of the poems could change. So I want to just keep saying again, in order to understand a poem, you don't need to understand every aspect of the writer and their life. But like you said, Osama, and like Professor Noor says in the textbook, I think having some understanding of context is very important, right? Because I think, for example, Langston Hughes in the poem that I asked you guys to watch, I think it's important to understand it happens after the Civil War. It happens after the formal end of slavery, but before the passage of the Civil Rights Act, right? So again, Black people were free, but Black people couldn't vote. You did, I mean, like, so it's a really interesting moment in time, and understanding that context, I think, gives a lot of important meaning to the poems that he writes, right? So now, in terms of the structure of poems, which is mostly what I'm talking about today, he was often described as writing what's called jazz poetry. Now, that's partly because he was writing poetry when a lot of people were creating basically jazz music around him during the Harlem Renaissance. But there's also this idea of using the same rhythms and meter of jazz music. And jazz music is famous for repeated themes, driving rhythm, and surprising improvisation. And we're going to see that in just a few lines of his poetry here. But again, for the people who did watch this YouTube video, hopefully you could see, right, a lot more obvious rhyming in his poem. Would we agree? Or I guess we could even say, what did you notice, or what did you think about the Langston Hughes poem in terms of this rhythm and meter? Did anybody notice anything in particular? I could add rhyming to that question too. But we can talk about it next. So I want to look at few lines. Osama, go ahead. And then we'll look at the lines that I have for us from Let America Be America again. Yes.
We have to see the point to it.
Good. Let's look at it. Yeah. We're not going to look at the whole thing, just a few lines, because it's a longer poem. But again, I'll read it. And what I really want you to pay attention to this time, not just rhythm and meter, which you will hear, but really listening for what is he doing with rhymes. Because again, yeah, that's all. Because rhyme, it's hard. It's almost impossible to separate rhyme from rhythm, right? But we saw in Emily Dickinson, it's kind of possible. Things don't have to rhyme to have a rhythm. But when you have rhyme and rhythm together, you really get that heartbeat going. So again, just a few lines from the poem here. I'll read, and I really just want you to tell me what you see with rhymes, what you see with rhythm. So here's a few lines from Let America Be America again. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea, and torn from Black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me, surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay, for all the dreams we've dreamed and all the songs we've sung and all the hopes we've held and all the flags we've hung, the millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that's almost dead today. So again, just look at the lines. I'll read it 2 more times, this one. I really want you to think about words that rhyme and rhythm. And where the rhythm shifts, because again, thinking about jazz poetry, in this short example, we see he sets the rhythm and then he breaks it, right? He'll make the rhythm and then something changes, right? So notice for where you hear that in the poem. So again, oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea. And torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. The free. Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today. The millions shot down when we strike. The millions who have nothing for our pay. For all the dreams we've dreamed, and all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung. The millions who have nothing for our pay, except the dream that's almost dead today. I'm going to read it again. Really notice again, where is this jazz feeling? You can really feel what I'm telling you is this jazz feeling where you get the rhythm, then it shifts. You get the rhythm, then it shifts. Or you hear a rhyme and you think you know the rhyme that will come next, but he adds a different word or changes the rhyme. And then the rhyme comes back in, right? So all of this stuff he's playing with in this poem. One more time. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea. And torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. The free. Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today. The millions shot down when we strike. The millions who have nothing for our pay. For all the dreams we've dreamed and all the songs we've sung and all the hopes we've held and all the flags we've hung. The millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that's almost dead today. So what do we notice? Ahmad, please tell me, what do you hear? What do you notice?
I noticed some rhymes where he actually starts on the first part, on the li and free. That's where it rhymes.
Love it.
And the second part, we say today and pay. And there goes sang and hang. And the last part, pay today again.
Love it. Great. Okay, Ahmad is our rhyming at the end of the line expert. Thank you, Ahmad. That is perfect. Anybody else? What do you notice about rhythm, rhyme? Anything else you see in these lines?
I see three rhythm in the first paragraph. Oh, I am the man who sailed those early seas.
Yes.
Search of what I meant to be my home. This is the first rhythm.
Good.
The second rhythm, for I am the one who left dark the Ireland's shore,
yep,
and Poland's plain, and England grassy lake. And this is the second rhythm.
Good. Good. Go.
Yeah.
Good. The other thing, listening to Osama, I'm thinking about when we were reading Grossman, and she emphasized how much monosyllables are a part of English poetry. Do you guys start to see that? I mean, these are all monosyllables, right? I'm the man who sailed those early. We get a two-syllable word here. I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. In these two lines, every word except early is a monosyllable, right? And you really start to see how in poetry, when you put all those, again, I'll just say it again, when you put all these monosyllables together, what happens is you get this unstressed stress, this sort of, like I said, dun, 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 dun. This rhythm sort of takes over, even if you don't have super complicated rhythm and meter in the poetry. Good. And Osama is exactly pointing out that we don't get a lot of rhyme or rhythm. We do have rhythm, but we don't have rhyme introduced in these first two lines. And then Osama is saying we do switch. We get this change once we get to the third line. Great. What else do people notice?
Can I?
Please, Natasha, please. And people, of course, I saw some people typing in the chat. Hero was saying she was agreeing with Ahmad. If you have anything you want to add in the chat, please type as well. But Natasha, go ahead.
Yeah, like we learned from the river speak that there is one persona who speaks from, yeah, but here in this poem he speaks from different personas. He speaks from immigrants from Poland, immigrants from Poland, England, Ireland. He also speaks from working class, white men, black men, Native Americans, slaves, and other people. He introduced, like, in one person, he introduced minorities, like oppressed minorities. Yeah.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, Natasha. Yeah, I'm going to talk more about persona next week because I wanted to make sure we get sort of how poetry works internally first. But you just made me a very happy teacher by bringing up persona from the reading. I love it. I totally agree. And he keeps, and again, remember what I said on this slide here about when we talk about jazz poetry, this idea of repeated themes or things that repeat. And we absolutely get this I'm, I. We get this first person pronoun, even though he's occupying, he's taking up the persona of all these different people from different places. So again, yes, so he's using repetition of the personal pronoun I in this case as a way to play with persona, right? And you said it perfectly. I'm from Ireland. I'm from Poland. I'm from England. I'm the African slave. Absolutely, Natasha. Beautiful point. Totally agree. What else? Let me ask this. I'll go to the next slide and just show the answer. The words that I put here in different colors are again, if you love all this stuff, spend as much time as you want with chapter 5 of River Speaks, because he talks about rhyme scheme and A-B-A-B-A-B or A-B-B-A or A-C. I mean, we could go really deep, but all I'm saying is the words in red rhyme, right? So seize, lee, free, 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 me. And then we get all these other, sometimes we get hung, sung, pay, today. So what I really want you to notice is how Langston Hughes here is using the rhyme to, in this example, the rhyme supports the rhythm because the rhyme comes at the end of the line, right? I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what it meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea. And torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. So we get seas, lea, free. So when you put the rhyme words at the end of the line, that will build the rhythm. But of course, notice what he does next is then he uses a very short 2-word line. And in the next one, we get this same rhyming word, but we get it earlier and earlier in the line, right? And this, where he puts the rhyme in the line, changes the rhythm, right? So instead of see, lee, free, we get, and torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. The free, who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today. And then he introduces another word that he's going to rhyme below. So now all of a sudden, the rhyme at the end of the line changes to today, and we get that word pay 2 lines after that, right? So he uses the predictable rhythm of having a line end with the rhyme. Then he throws the rhyme into the middle of the line, or he throws the rhyming word 1, 2, 3, 4 times in a very short order, and then changes the rhyme at the end of the line after that. And this is an example of, I was saying about this jazz poetry, right? It's like A, or even you could say A, B, A, B, A, B. You know what I'm saying? It's you introduce the rhythm, then you mess with it a little bit, and then you start to play with a new rhythm. And even in these just few lines, you can start to see that. And the last thing I want to say before opening up for questions is, earlier I said slant rhyme, or like Emily Dickinson says, tell the truth, but tell it slant. This is already a reference to poetry because a slant rhyme means that words that kind of rhyme but don't really rhyme. And these words that I have in green here, home, came, dreamed, these words don't rhyme, right? But what do they have? They do have an important sound in common. What sound is it? Home, came, dreamed. What's similar about home, came, Dreamed.
M.
Thank you.
M.
Here.
M-E.
Exactly. Now, exactly, Hiraway. Now you see, these words don't rhyme. Home and came do not rhyme, but they share this very powerful is a nasal sound. You have to close your lips. You really have to make an effort to make that M sound. So even though they don't rhyme, they share this very important sound. And that's what Professor Noor means in the book. That's what the video that was talking about Emily Dickinson is talking about with this slant rhyme. It doesn't rhyme, but it kind of rhymes, right? It doesn't rhyme, but it has a sound that reminds you of another sound. And it's no mistake that home, came, dreamed, all of them come at the end of the line, right? So again, not a perfect rhyme. This is a slant. This is an example of a slant rhyme. They share some important sound. Does that make sense? Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Do you guys notice anything else? Oh, I hear a robot. Do you notice anything else about this poem or rhythm? Because I'm going to go fast through the last one. But does this idea a little bit make sense about how he's using rhyme? In the first one, we saw Emily Dickinson using syllables and line length to give the poem a natural rhythm, right? In this example, we see Langston Hughes using rhyme to give the poem a natural rhythm, but also because of who he is and the type of poems he's writing, the rhyme can introduce a new rhythm or play with the rhythm, and then we get a new rhythm, right? Even if you don't, like I said, I'm not, and I see your hand here, I'm not expecting you to analyze poems and be able to notice this at this time, but I do want to make sure that these two ideas make sense a little bit using these two examples. Hiroe, what you got?
I found interesting the second part. It's like sandwiched. Today, pay today, and in a middle, strong feeling.
Exactly.
Sandwich.
Yeah, exactly right. So rhyme scheme AB. Again, I'm just going to put this link. I can put all these links in Canvas too, just so that you can see them later, but I don't like this one at all. What you're talking about, Hiroe, is exactly called an A in English. It's called the AB rhyme scheme. So again, this isn't a poetry class. I'm not asking you to memorize all the different types of rhyme scheme, but what you just described, oops. Blues are lilt. Hold on one second. What you just described is an AB rhyme scheme, and it's a sandwich. It's exactly as you just said. And again, if you're interested, chapter 5, that link that I just sent, there's a lot of different types of rhyme scheme that people have used for hundreds of years in English for sure. Fada, I saw your question about blues are lilt. Can you say more, either type or say for me what the question is?
Lilt. So, Professor is.
I think you've got a bad Google Translate, but you've got an interest in the blue words. What's the question?
Yeah, because the blue ones are, when I read the blue ones, it's a kind of easier, as Erwin mentioned, and also it's lived like I feel it's better than the first one. The first one is like they do not have like same, as you mentioned, B like this, but the second one, when you read and finish the first line, and when you start the second line, I mean, I feel like a little equality between two lines. I feel like that.
Cool. I love it. Yeah, that makes total sense. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. I guess the last thing I'll say is, remember, just some basic information for you guys who like poetry and want to know. When I also say repeated themes, this is something else you see in jazz music as well. But even these examples of all the songs we've sung, all the, this is another example of repeated. He's repeating the same phrase and then changing all the songs, all the hopes, all the flags, the millions shot, the millions who. Again, these are just famous sort of examples of the type of poetry I'm talking about. So I just wanted to say, in addition to Natasha's excellent point about persona and his repetition of I, we also get the repetition of certain phrases and words, even just in these few lines in this poem by Langston Hughes. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out as well. Ahmad, what's up?
Professor, please correct me if I'm wrong. I have taken some jazz classes, and I specifically the poetry by Hughes. if you're looking for the rhymes for the use art parts or any poetry, we have to look within the each stanza. Each stanza has their own rhymes.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of this is another, so yeah, absolutely. Ahmad is talking about each stanza of the poem. So each group of lines, and absolutely, again, in a full literature, in a full poetry analysis class, we could talk about each stanza has its own theme and each theme connects to the sound. I mean, you can absolutely, that is 100% correct, Ahmad. Ahmad. And for this class, especially these beginning, I just wanted to choose some shorter poems to at least talk about some of the key things, again, rhythm, meter, line, and rhyme, and stuff like that. But so yes, 100%, Ahmad, 100%. Okay, let's talk about Walt Whitman before we run out of time. So Walt Whitman was born in Long Island, New York. He's kind of right in the middle of our other two poets. He lived from 1819 to 1892. He strongly believed in the link between the poet and society, and therefore he very, very strongly identified as an American poet, and also very famously has poems about Civil War battles, has very, very famous poem about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, very American, American history, American society. So again, a very unique part about Walt Whitman there. He's also often considered to be one of the first popular queer voices in America. He wrote lovingly about men and women. He never spoke about his own sexuality. He never said, I'm gay or whatever, but a lot of his poems and themes, and he was a little bit controversial at the time because he wasn't married and didn't have children, and sort of wrote these poems about how men are beautiful and women are beautiful. And very famous, has this poem called I Sing the Body Electric, and a very famous poem, just a sort of celebration of the human body. And not, again, the expectation at the time would be that if it was a man writing poems, he'd be writing poems about only women's bodies. So again, not, like I said, not a particularly political poet at the time, but an interesting part of American history in terms of the things that he chose to write about. He was also called the father of free verse poetry. Free verse means breaking away from everything that I was just talking about for the last, 30 minutes. The idea was there doesn't need to be rhythm or meter or rhyme, and that he basically just started writing the lines as he wanted to write them. And I remember, I'll just share, when I was in college, when I was an undergraduate, I was taking a class where we were studying Walt Whitman, and one of the students in the class hated Walt Whitman. He hated this free verse thing. He wanted rhymes, he wanted he wanted rhythm and meter, and he described, I'll never forget, he described Walt Whitman poetry as like putting a ping pong ball into a drying machine, and the ping pong ball is just bouncing around in the dryer with no plan, no motion, no movement. Yeah, and so again, you're like Usama was saying at the beginning, like Professor Noor says, you can feel however you want to feel about these poems. I'm not telling you to like them, but his sort of creation of free verse, especially in United States poetry, is very significant. You know what I mean? Like whether you like it or not. Ideas or questions about Walt Whitman before we look at the poem? Great. So here it was, here's an example of free verse. Again, what I really want you to notice is the difference in rhythm and rhyme between the first two poems we read. So again, if you watched the video for this, you probably noticed it as well. But I love that video too, because you can see personal interpretation of the poems is so different, right? 3 different artists making 3 different videos for the same poem, and they're all very different. So here's Walt Whitman and an example of free verse. A noiseless, patient spider. I marked where on a little promontory it stood isolated, marked how to explore the vacant vast surrounding. It launched forth filament, filament, filament out of itself, ever unreeling them, ever tirelessly speeding them. And you, oh my soul, where you stand, surrounded, detached, in measureless oceans of space, ceaselessly musing, venturing, throwing, seeking the spheres to connect them, till the bridge you will need be formed, till the ductile anchor hold, till the gossamer thread you fling catch somewhere, oh, my soul. What do you notice right away? I'll read it again. What do you notice about word length and syllables in the words?
So many syllables.
Thank you, Osama. Perfect answer. So many syllables, right? None of this monosyllable or two-syllable words, those monosyllables and the two-syllable words sort of giving our poems natural rhythm and meter. Well, when you think about free verse, when you think about a poet who is not really interested in rhythm or meter, it makes sense, hopefully, that you get lots of words, longer words, lots of syllables. What else do you notice about the words and syllables? Anything else? Or about the lines?
I think
I
it's
thought, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hala, go ahead, and then Hiroe.
Okay. I remember there were a poem. It's called haiku, I think.
Haiku.
Haiku, yeah. It's not depend on the rhythm. It's
Yes.
different. It's depend on the rule. Like the first sentence has 3 words. The second one has 7. Like this.
5, yeah. Haiku is the opposite of Walt Whitman, right? Haiku is a Japanese style of poetry. Haiku is the opposite of Walt Whitman because haiku is all about rhythm, right? Haiku is 5 syllable, 7 syllable, 5 syllable. That's it. So
Yeah.
where each in haiku, the line dictates, the line tells you how many syllables will be in that line, right? And this is the exact opposite, Hala, where Whitman goes, how the length of the line, how many syllables in a line, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like it's all about this like expression. So yeah, I love that, Hala. Yeah, the opposite. Weltman is the anti-haiku poet. Yeah, Hiroe, what you got?
I see the rhymes at the formed and hold.
Say more.
More?
Yeah. So are you talking about hold at the end of the line, or what? What did you say?
The rhymes. It's rhymes well. The second last that will need to be formed
Hold.
till the and the anchor hold.
Good. And Hiroe is doing an amazing job there, pointing out examples of slant rhymes inside of the same line. You get sort of slant rhymes. Now, I will say, whether you like Walt Whitman or not, whether you like free verse or not, Hiroe is exactly correct. What you end up having, what you end up seeing is much more slant rhyme from line to line instead of landing on the rhyme at the end of each line. When you get to free verse and the length of the line doesn't matter, and really the syllables don't matter, you start to notice that the rhymes come in different places and they're much more frequently slant rhymes, right? And not true rhymes. Absolutely, Hiroe.
Yeah, and it ends with my soul.
Yes.
It's not the same, but it's same group.
Good.
Of the rhymes.
Good. Absolutely. I'll read it one more time. And then I want to hear from other people. But again, as I read it, just notice, do you hear me? Is there a rhythm beyond syllable stress? Because what I feel like I'm trying to do is just focus on each syllable stress. And what happens is this kind of free verse. So again, each line changes and it's hard to find a true rhythm.
So Professor.
Yeah, Kazwan.
As it's mentioned, it's a free verse. Does that mean it was popular at that time? Because usually people, they don't like rules. Yeah. When it's come for a free verse, they like what is they express themselves. There is no special rules.
It's an amazing question. And again, that's a beautiful, gorgeous question. I think the true answer is, at first, this kind of poetry was not very popular because people everywhere, every culture has this idea of what poetry is, right? It's short, it rhymes, it has a rhythm, right? And here comes this American poet saying, well, poetry can be whatever I want it to be, and I'm just going to use the words I want to use, and syllable stress and meter doesn't really matter. So at first, it was not very popular, guys. But now, of course, Americans, for better and for worse, we're obsessed with freedom. So I think this idea of the poet is free of any constraint, of any rule, of any idea of rhyming, or the poet doesn't have to follow rules. Now you see this kind of poetry very, very often in American poetry, and American English poets. Not so that's all I want to say. At first it was not popular, but it has become popular. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you. Got it.
Of course. Usama, what you got?
The free verse, it is the same in our language, in
Is
our
it?
culture. There is a classical poem which should be under certain rules, and there is a free verse.
Yes.
Free verse poet, his name is Nizar Kabani.
Mm.
He wrote a lot of poems about love, and he became the lovers of the feminine. Eh, all women like his poem.
Mm.
He became one of the famous poet. Yes, in the Arab country, Nizar Kabani.
Beautiful.
It is the same as here.
It's that free verse. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, I'll read it one more time, and we've got 12 minutes. So I'll read it one more time, and then I want to talk about the what to do next and what to do in Canvas. But again, especially if you're watching this later on, really what and for everybody here too, what I really want you to notice is in this reading, the focus is on the syllable stress, not on the overall rhythm of the poem, right? So, a noiseless, patient spider, I marked where on a little promontory it stood isolated, marked how to explore the vacant vast surrounding. It launched forth filament, filament, filament out of itself, ever unreeling them, ever tirelessly speeding them. And you, oh my soul, where you stand, surrounded, detached in measureless oceans of space, ceaselessly musing, venturing, throwing, seeking the spheres to connect them, till the bridge you will need to be formed, till the ductile anchor hold, till the gossamer thread you fling catch somewhere, oh my soul. Like even for me, I feel like the poem wants to end on somewhere, but like the poem wants to be done at somewhere, and oh my soul feels like it feels against the rhythm of the poem to me. And yet again, that's the whole point, right? That's the way that Walt Whitman wants us to read the poem. So eventually poets who write in free verse start to, again, play with what the speaker will expect from a poem that has more rhythm and meter. And so again, it's just it's interesting. It's really interesting how people who love free verse start to play with and play against people's expectations about what rhythm and meter are as well. Great. Any questions? Does this idea about rhythm, meter, and rhyme make some more sense in these three examples?
Yes.
I hope so. Ahmad is the only one here, but if I'll take silence as a good sign. I got a chat. Thanks, Jay. Okay, so what's next? What's next, or what's going to be possible to do in Canvas? Here's what I want to show you. So here's the stuff that I have prepared and ready in Canvas for you now. I think lesson 18 isn't ready yet. But the midterm, remember, due by 8 a.m. Monday, November 2nd. That is about literary narratives, not about poems. Lesson 16 is in Canvas. It's a discussion. I think a few people have posted, and I'll show you that. It's called Responding to Poetry. Lesson 17 is going to be a chance for you to talk about the poem, the translated poem that you found. So I posted that today. I think lesson 18, I will post, I don't think it's published yet. Let me take a look. And then there are a bunch of poems that I would just like you to read as many of them as you can. And next week, we're really going to talk about persona, metaphor, and simile. That's River Speaks Chapter 2. So if you haven't spent a lot of time with River Speaks Chapter 2, you can do that as well. So first, I just want to show you what I'm talking about in terms of what to do and how to do it in Canvas. So to do that, I'm going to put my Canvas shell into student view. So assignments. So at the beginning of class, like I said, I talked about the midterm. Last call for questions about the midterm and what I want you to do there. Read with noodles, write shorty, and tell me what the theme is and explain how one example of descriptive writing connects to that theme. Any questions about the midterm? It's due Monday. If you need more time, just email me and we'll make it happen. Hiroe says no questions. Great. So discussion. So lesson 16 is a discussion post. Here it is, responding to poetry. I'm going to post my response in here too. I put this up last week, but I didn't send out an email about it. It just says rewatch the 3 videos, the poems that we talked about, and then respond to the prompt below, and then just follow our usual discussion and post guidelines. So which of the 3 poems is most memorable for you? Why? What does this poem mean to you? What key images, metaphors, or rhythms are connected to this meaning? So here you can see, you can read when you go there, read Hiroe talking about Tell It Slant. I believe that Natalia wrote about the Langston, yes, Natalia wrote about the Langston Hughes poem. So please, it's all there. Hadi posted, I think, just today. So that's all I want you to do. And we've talked about these 3 poems, so go ahead and post in this discussion. Any questions about this lesson 16?
Nope.
When this due?
You know, these are the lessons again, Usama. So it's not due, whenever you can.
Okay.
And then lesson 17 is here in assignments. And this is where I'm very excited to read when you do this. So this is called a quiz, but again, it's not really a quiz, and I'll show you what it is. So the instructions say here, first, copy and paste the poem that you found, including the author and title in your first language. So here, you're just going to copy and paste the poem. Okay, question 1, whatever language, Russian, Japanese, Farsi, Dari, Arabic, I don't care. I just want the original text in the language it was written in. Okay. Then question 2, I want you to record yourself reading the poem in that language. So you'll choose a file. Oh, hold on. I want to see if I can have you record.
You can have in here, Professor, in that one when you paste it.
Can you, you can record?
You can record in Canvas. Yeah, in here, in the question third.
Yeah.
And then you can hear in the, let me see, in here, in the last line, close to paragraph, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Next one.
Oh, upload?
No.
You're right. So I need to change the style of question so that you can record.
Yeah, that one.
That's what you need. Thank you very much. I'm going to do this. I know this is boring, but I'm going to do this while you're all here. So anyway, question 1, what you're going to see is just copy and paste the poem in Farsi, in Arabic, in Spanish, in Japanese, whatever. Okay. Then question 2, I want you to record yourself reading that poem in that language. And thank you, Fada. I'm going to change this to not file upload to an
We paste it in the same language or in English?
Question 1, same language. Question 3, I'll show you, is going to be in English.
Okay.
So let me update these so that, thank you, Fada, for, I thought that it would let you record yourself automatically, but okay, let me go back to student view. And again, I'll show this for everyone who's here and for everyone who is not here. Hello. Okay, resume quiz. So question 1, copy and paste, right? Copy and paste the poem in the first language. Question 2, híjole madre, hold on. I might not have changed.
The question 1 should be the original point.
Yes.
Point, and you want the translated point into English.
I'll show you. I want both. In question 1, I want the original. In question 3, copy paste the English language translation. I want the translation.
Oh. So, Professor, if the poem's already translated by other people, you mean?
Yes, yes. No, I'm not asking you to translate the poem. You can if you want to. That'd probably be a lot of work, but probably fun. But no, I'm not asking. I'm not expecting you to translate the poem.
Professor, do we
Yes.
have to write who's the author?
Yeah, I'm in the. That's what I tried to say in question 1, including the author and title. So if you can, just tell me the name of the poem and the author of the poem.
For both English and
yeah. If you know what, I'm not too worried, Jay. If you can't find the person who translated the poem into English, it's more important that I get the author and title in its first language. Make sense?
Okay.
Professor, if we don't find the author, is it okay?
I guess, but can I ask why you can't find the author?
Because I find a lot of poems in my language, but without the author.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm much more. It's more important that you Why is it still? Oh, good. Why is it doing this? This is like Hiro was talking about. Maybe it's being really slow right now.
Well, can't you copy the question 3 and change just the number and text?
I guess, but it's just
duplicate.
But I already did this in Canva.
I think the one that you changed, Professor, was number 3, not number 2.
Did I change the wrong one?
Yeah, I think so.
This is so much fun.
It's
Okay,
supposed
no
to be
more
number
questions
2.
for Professor Jeff. Let him work first.
You guys, at the beginning of the semester, I was like, Canvas is great. And now I hate Canvas so much now. I'm just in it too much. Okay, so that's
that number 2. The second
That's question 2. Now question 2 is essay instead of file upload, which is what it should be. Question 3 should be essay, which it already is. There it is. Question 4 is an essay question instead of file upload, which it should be. And question 5 is also essay. So I don't know why when I go to see student view now, it's being cranky.
And why did you choose upload? I thought we need to record.
Yeah, because I thought when you clicked upload, it would give you the chance to record yourself with that option, but it didn't. It's like Fada said, it has to be essay question. And then I want to show you where
like a number, yes,
exactly.
other question, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And in that essay question, that's where you get the option to record yourself or do a multimedia recording. I'm just going to say a prayer that it worked now. I don't know what to say.
Professor.
Oh, I bet I know it's because I started the quiz already. That's going to be my guess. Hold on. I have an idea. Oh, I hate Canvas so much. I think I did this so you can submit it 3 times. Okay, fine. This is so much fun, you guys. Oh no, I need to allow multiple attempts. Hold on. This is so exciting. Allow multiple attempts. Let's do 3. Who cares? Oops. Thank you all for your patience. I know that this is not the most exciting. Take it again, huh?
Maybe how about if we refresh the browser? Maybe it's in the cache?
No, it was, of course, yeah. So guys, other students were saying, of course, leave. It's 12:15. Please leave. Just rewatch this part of the video where I explain the instructions. But that's why I'm taking so long. So if you've got to go. Of course, I respect your time very, very much. So I just want to show you though. So this is working now. Question 1, copy and paste the poem. So just copy and paste whatever. Question 2 says record yourself reading the poem. To do that, you need to click this little icon, record, upload media, and then you can just say record. You can just do the mic. You don't need video, but you can see it's recording me right now. So just click start recording. read yourself, record yourself reading the poem in the first language. Make sense? Question 3, copy and paste the English translation, any translation you find. Question 4, record yourself reading the poem in English. Same thing, click here, record, upload media. Just record yourself in Canvas. And then question 5 says, write a short response, 300 words, so just about a paragraph, to answer the following questions. There's no right or wrong. It's just a chance for you to play with some of the ideas that we've been talking about this semester. What's your opinion of the translation? What is successful about the translation? What is not as successful? How would you change it? A word, a line, an image, and why would you make this change? So just a chance for you to think about translation and poetry and some of the ideas that we've been talking about all semester long. The last thing I want to show you here. So any questions about lesson 17? I'm sure there are. Now I'm ready for them. Thank you, Hiraway, for blocking for me. Yes, Osama, please.
5 questions. The quiz is 5 questions.
Yes, by Hiraway. Yes, 5 questions. First, copy and paste the poem in your first language. Second, record in your first language. Third, copy and paste the English. Fourth, record yourself in English. And then 5 is just the kind of short answer question.
300 words.
Exactly right. And then I'm going to add one more link here. Oh, this is not live support materials. I'm sorry. This is course materials. So course materials here, the River Speaks is there. You can continue reading if you haven't read. I'm going to try to post myself reading the chapters as well. But the one thing I did want to put in here is I added this already. When I say read, here on this slide, when I say read the poems in ESL 350, W350, I'm talking about this. I just put it in course materials. So again, that's homepage, course materials. At the very top now, you'll see ESL W350 poems. And that's a list of poems that I put together for our class. And it looks like this, if you download it. So we're going to use some of these poems as examples next week, but I'm not asking you to read all of them or all of them 100 times. There's some translated poems from Russian, some translated poems from Ukrainian authors, some translated poems by Rumi. So there's a bunch of poems in here, and read as many of them as you can. Okay, you guys, these are yours. There's no specific homework for you to do with them. Just the more you can read and the sooner you can read, the better. And the better prepared you will be for our class next week. Okay. And I'm going to leave. I'm going to talk about lesson 18 next week. I'm not worried about that at all. So again, if the only thing you do is the midterm, totally fine. If you have more time and can do lesson 16 and 17, that's great too. Okay. Questions?
Yeah, it's time. This need too much time.
Yeah.
Have to submit our midterm and then to follow up on Monday, and on Wednesday we have to. I think that's a lot.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you know, that's me. That's why I'll tend to go slow. I know last week there was not a lot of stuff in Canvas. This week I put 3 things in there. So just go do as much as you can, Osama. And again, I'll just say to everyone who's still here, thank you for your patience. Like I said, I'm still learning how to do this. And I think things have been a little unbalanced. I think some weeks feel slow and other weeks feel fast. And that's not on purpose. It's I'm just doing my best. So that's all I ask of you too, Osama, is just do your best. You know what I mean?
I try because we have some other classes.
I know. No, I know. And again, you know, I think it's pretty clear, but I'm comfortable saying it to you. And you know, I will always adjust or change things. I'm never going to give you so much work that you feel like you're going to fail. I don't care about the grades. Bye, Jay. All I want is for you to have the opportunity to experience some of these things and not worry too much about A's or B's or C's. So. That's all. Do your best. Do your best. Do your best. That's all I ask. Anybody else? Questions? Thank you all. And I apologize for staying late. So get out of here. I'll see you next week and do as much as you can. I'll be, of course, I have office hours tomorrow. So if you guys have questions or need things, I'm much more able to reply to email. I got some emails and texts this week and I responded to those too. But if you have questions or need help, I'm much more, I'm back home and I'm in my own house and all that kind of stuff. So I'm here if you need me.
Excuse me, just quick
Yes.
question. So I just attend late, so I missed a lot. I know like you will post them on Canvas. So are you gonna do this today?
What do you mean post what?
Like post the record, like the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I'll do it as soon as as soon as the recording is ready in Zoom, because it takes Zoom time to take our recording and then make it available. So as soon as it's available, I'll put it up.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Bye.
Yeah, bye, Anas.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Ahmed. Thank you so much for your contributions today.
Bye, Professor. Bye.
Bye, Father. Thank you. Thanks, Osama.